Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Nailah Abdullah. I'm a mental health therapist turned toxic relationship coach. And after overcoming my own personal experiences with toxic and narcissistic relationships, I now work with women like you, helping you to heal, to rebuild yourself, to move on after the impact of a toxic and narcissistic relationship, and most importantly, making sure you don't end up back there again. So if that sounds like something that you need, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. Stick around, let's get into this topic. Does he regret hurting you? If you are referring to someone that you have identified as toxic, which means destructive to your well-being, and you didn't just call them that because you just felt like it, or you just read something and for 2 seconds and you suddenly call them that. No, you did that because there is a pattern of behavior that led you to this video, that led you to this topic. So if you consider them that, if you have been led in that direction because a series and patterns of behavior of a certain person, and you consider them toxic or narcissistic, and you ask, do they regret hurting you? The short answer to that question is no. So yes, you can stop watching this episode right now if you got your answer. But if you want to understand more, because I know that's not the answer you want to hear. So if you want to understand why the answer is no, stick around and let me explain a little bit to you so you can understand it. And even though it might hurt, the answer no, they don't regret hurting you. But if you understand the reasoning behind it, it will make it a little bit easier for you to deal with. And not only about being easy, but you want to be more wise. You want to understand how these types of people work, how these relationship dynamics work, so that you can work more on your healing and being able to identify these types of people in these types of situations in the future, so you make sure you don't end up back here again. One of the reasons that he does not regret hurting you is because there are some people with personalities who lack the ability to have remorse. Okay? There are people in this world that have a certain type of personality that don't have the capacity, they can't feel, they can't empathize with you. They may be able to pretend to, but they can't. And I want you to understand this from two different aspects. There's a psychological aspect and there's also a spiritual aspect. The psychological aspect is that, like I said, there are people, just like how you have physical illnesses. If you open the DSM is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders. Personality disorders fall into that. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into that, nor do you need to go deep into that to try to diagnose people, but I want you to understand that mental health also includes personality disorders. And even if someone, because most people with personality disorders are not diagnosed, however, they may have a disorder or they may have traits of a disorder. It's kind of like you hear some people say, I'm not diabetic, but I'm borderline. So I have to watch the sugar that I take, right? The sugar that I consume, right? So that is a physical ailment. That's a physical health issue, right? They're not diagnosed with diabetes, but they do have certain traits, so they have to be careful. It is the same thing with personality disorders. Again, it's not your job to diagnose anyone, but if you have been around someone long enough, right, where you see a pattern, a series of behaviors, where you see that they continuously show that they're not able to have empathy, they're not able to genuinely feel for you when you're in pain, they're not making the necessary changes, but they're holding on to you, they keep reeling you back in, but still hurting you over and over, right? This may be a sign that they do not feel. Okay, and I know sometimes people can understand this. For example, some of those movies, what is it? I can't think of one of those movies. A lot of them are back from the 90s where maybe Hannibal Lecter or I can't think of them, but either way, right? You see these people, right? These psychopaths or sociopaths who are out there murdering people, and they're doing all this really gruesome things to people. They feel nothing, right? So it's easy for us to understand it when we see it to that extreme, but there are people also with the same traits. They lack remorse. They lack the ability to have empathy for others, right? They may not be physically hurting people. They may not be murdering people, right? But they are breaking people emotionally. They're breaking people psychologically. They enjoy triggering people, right? So these types of people, they exist. And it's so important for you to understand this, and most importantly, accept it, because the reason people are in these types of relationships, one of the reasons, and the reason people hold on to them, right, is because they are holding on to hope that they can change, right, or that they can change them, right, that things will go back to the way it was. And the reality is these types of people, the way it was a trap. It was to bring you in. It's not genuinely who they are. So again, they're good at pretending. They're good at pretending to care, pretending to be nice. But really, when you assess their patterns of behavior, the ongoing pain that they're causing you, that is where you have to use your common sense and say, okay, I'm not waiting for you to tell me who you are. I'm going to use my common sense and my logic and add up 1 + 1 is 2, right? And add up all the events that has happened over and over and over and over, and realize you don't have the capacity to feel, right? So they just can't feel. They don't have any remorse. They don't feel empathy. They can pretend, but it's not genuine. That is one of the reasons that no, they do not regret hurting you. The next point that I want you to understand when it comes to regret, does he regret hurting me? He may not regret hurting you. As I said before, the clear answer is no. But what they do regret is the consequences of hurting you. Let me give you an example. For those of you who know my story, I was in a relationship for 10 years with someone that I considered to be narcissistic, a covert narcissist, right? Nevertheless, toxic for sure. And at the end of our 10-year relationship, I went to the leasing office of where we were renting our apartment to go ahead and cancel our lease. And he followed me there in panic. And I remember him saying, "Oh, my life, my life." Now, he was saying that because I was speaking to the lady, right, signing the paperwork to cancel the lease agreement. Now, a naive version of Nailah would say, "Oh, he's hurt. He's saying, oh, my life." Like he was panicking, like, I can't believe Nailah is doing this. Like, I can't believe this is really, coming down to this. We're really splitting up. The naive Nailah would have thought that he was hurt, that he was going to miss our relationship, and he felt like his world was falling apart. The wise Nailah started to realize that he was not going to miss me per se. He was going to miss the benefits that came along with being with me. That his life was going to be turned upside down because I was the one managing most of the major things in the house, right? The lease and making sure everything was in order. We would have to switch cars because he made sure he was driving my nice car while I drove his average car, right? So all of these things now were going to change. So did he regret hurting me? No, because in the midst of our conflict, and even in the midst of me signing to cancel that leasing agreement, that didn't say, "Oh, let me change. Look how much I hurt her. Let me do better." No, there was more aggression that came, right? That aggression came because it's like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Like, my mommy is taking away my lollipop. Not because I realized that I did something wrong, right? No. I'm mad because my lollipop is taken away, not because I feel remorse that I did something wrong, but I'm mad that my lollipop is being taken away. They have the emotional capacity actually of a toddler. If you start to look at them in that way, then you will understand, and you will not expect them to behave like adults. So again, I want you to understand that don't confuse them regretting the consequences of hurting you with actually regretting hurting you. Your feelings, your pain is not a concern of theirs. What's a concern of theirs is what they get out of being with you, and now they may regret losing what they got out of being with you. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that this is a normal question. When you have invested your emotion, your time into a person, you want to know that they feel the same way about you that you feel about them. And you know you wouldn't want to hurt them or to continue to hurt them. And you want to make sure, like, well, do you feel the same thing for me? I want you to understand and to accept some of this information that I've shared here, because again, you don't want to continue down a path of being abused, of being mistreated because you are stubborn, because you are refusing to accept the reality of the situation or the reality of who someone truly is. I want you to think short-term pain for long-term peace. And that can mean so many different things, but in this particular topic that we're talking about today, sometimes you're going to have to accept painful realities to have long-term peace. The longer you stay in denial, the more pain that you are going to subject yourself to. You use your own common sense, your own logic to answer the question, does he regret hurting me? Along with some of the information that I've shared here today. Do not look to them to answer the question for you by words. You judge people based on their patterns of behavior. If you're in the process of working on yourself, working on your healing, working on letting go from a toxic and narcissistic relationship, go ahead in the description box below. I have a free guide there of mistakes to avoid during and after toxic relationships. These are some of the lessons that I've learned, and I have them here for you in this free guide. So go ahead and click the link in the description box below to get access to that now. I hope that this was beneficial for you. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment box below. There's also my email address down below. You can also email me directly if it's something a bit more private. Again, I hope that this was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next episode.